All right, guys. So today we're going to be going over RPR and some of the tools and resources to actually pull the data that we talked about last week, but actually how do you get that data in actual raw format so you can start doing things like walking neighborhoods. So you can do things like mailing mailers out to these people. And so you can actually use that data to maybe scrub through public resources to find out if you can actually sell or help sell them their home in this process. So we're going to be going through some seller prospecting today using the RPR program. So bear with me for a moment while I just get ourselves set up here. Now, the basis is that we are here in this environment where we are where we were at last week. We are starting our case with research. So once again, the same place that we went before, we are prospecting for clients. We are clicking on our research tab. In there, we're going to actually click over to our property map search tab. So what this is doing is this allowing you to search based on a specific area. Now, one thing you do need to make sure, sometimes people do operate in the commercial platform. In this case, we're actually working on residential. So we need to make sure that it's selected to residential. Now, the next status is we're going to select a property. Now, I've already done a little bit of a search, so I'm going to work for Chaparral Park North in El Paso. Once I do that search, it's going to filter it down to a total of properties. So I have 178 properties that I currently have selected. If you'll notice, it actually pumps this all out onto the information here, but then I want to actually try and filter this out to specifics. So once I filter it out to specifics, basically I'm going to take this data and I want to make sure that public records are actually selected. Now I can operate through actually MLS data or lease data, but if I do that, I want to make sure that the data that I have is the most accurate and the most up to date. And by using the public data, it allows me to get as close to that as possible. So once I select that information, I have currently 178 properties. I need to be under 500 or less, no matter what, because 500 or less is what allows me to bring that data out nice and clean and crisp, and just kind of keeps it nice and smooth. So a couple of those filters that I can use are things like owner occupied or maybe absentee owner, and then I can basically break it down to anything like actual keyword searches that might be searched out in data. So if I wanted to select properties that only had two-car garages, excuse me, or three-car garages, I can do that. In this circumstance, I'm just going to operate on owner occupied, and then I'm going to actually select how long they've owned this property. So I can go anywhere from 0 to 5 years all the way up to 20 plus. In this case, I'm going to select 10 to 15. Once I do that, now I'm going to update my search and pull that information. So I now have my list of properties, 178 properties selected. I'm going to change this over to a list view. Now that's important. If I'm still in my map view or in my grid view, I need to be in list view to pull my mailing labels. Now before I actually pull the mailing labels, what I want to do is I want to look at these two factors right here. So a print functionality and a create report functionality. Now reports are very important because you want to know what you're actually marketing to. So if you use this correctly, we'll come back to this in a moment, but creating a report on this 178 properties can be ideal whenever you're actually having conversations or being able to create marketable data to your listing clients. But in this case, we're doing mailing labels today. So we're going to click on mailing labels. Once that populates up, I want to make sure you guys can see my screen the right way. So I'm going to select this. And here I have my mailing labels. So once I have my mailing labels, I'm going to make sure that I have it in CSV. Now, if you'll notice, it already can create and print out specific labels. But if you're going to print them out on your own or at a separate point, or if you just want the data, this is where you would select CSV. Now, in that case, if I wanted to select any of the Avery labels or anything to that effect, I can actually have 5160 labels, 5161, or 5162 pre-described, or I can use the Avery website if I've bought labels that are different than that. Once I select that CSV, I'm going to customize a few of these points. So I can select the property address or the tax billing address. I personally believe that you should go with the tax billing address. This tutorial is built out as property address, but once I select that, I can eliminate duplicates too. Now, this is important, especially if you're having an environment where maybe they own multiple properties. So if you're going for investment properties, this might be a great place that you can eliminate duplicates just to keep your data correct. Now, the other side of the equation comes down to where is it going to be addressed to? My best suggestion is that you select current resident, so you're not running into issues. Now, if you're running first class mail, so putting a stamp on each of these, owner name is not bad, but if you put current resident, it will still mail and it won't necessarily back off if the person has moved or if they have a forwarding address. You can also select just current resident and then actually put a custom name. Once I select that, I also want to be able to select occupancy type. So I have all selected. If I want to just go for owner occupied, or if I'm going just for absentee owner, I can select either of those and go through that process to make a nice clean data resource. Now, this is one thing that they have changed over the last couple months, is that they've restricted it down to only 2,000 print labels per month. Now, that's a lot, so I don't think you'll be using that, but if you were to go over that, there is an ability that you can increase over 2,000. In this case, I'm only using 171. I would simply press export, and now I have a nice clean label section for this status, okay? Now, in that, basically, guys, what we want to come up with, if you give me a second to switch back to my other screen. So basically, if I'm using this information from the data, one of the things I told you about is to produce a report. So create a report. I've already created a report for this particular property, and it creates what is called a market activity report when you click on create report. So it opens up this status, and then it allows me to edit that status by adding sample information, data information, selecting the specific reports I want. If I scroll over this eye, it's going to show me what kind of information that is. In this case, I'm going to actually look at my data here and pull this information up. So give me a second, pull my market activity report up. And then I have my actual market activity report that I have here. So this is Chaparral Park. That same search I did a moment ago, this is taking all the data out of that report and then showing it to me in true format. So basically what happens is this is going to show me the first part, your estimated value, market detail, all those details, all that information, okay? You're also going to have your actual last month over month change, and then you're going to run your last quarter over quarter. This is a great place to identify if this is a good market. So remember, we talked about map layers last week. This is another place that is identified on. This is going to do things like making sure that you're hitting good areas that may be very marketable to you and be able to have a lot of good information. Guys, this comes down to you can use this report in a manner which is going to work best for you. You can take this data that comes out, so the property addresses, all that information, you can mail them handwritten letters. If it's 170 people, you can go on a mass mailing to them as well. But if maybe you're drilling it down to maybe 5 or 10 or 15 properties, so let's say you have a buyer that's in the equation and they're looking for a specific area, you can drill that down to the maybe 25 properties that fit their criteria and start to do some actual fishing to that property and see if you can pull out a property where you can maybe double-side a transaction, or you can find a exclusive buyer representative property for that client. So lots of great opportunities, lots of opportunities that you can actually make some really great resources moving forward. But the key here is making sure that you're using the places that we already have, RPR being one of those, to find data that will make you successful in your prospecting game. Guys, I hope this was useful. I hope this is beneficial. If you guys have any questions or need anything else, please don't hesitate. But thank you for taking a few moments with me. I hope that this kind of run down and giving you a kind of a breakdown of how to do it easily and quickly. But if you have any other questions, don't hesitate. Have a great day. See you later.